Do you remember? Trump said something about the Turkish army. Very strong, not worn out. No, it has an army of nearly 2.5 million. An army of nearly 2.5 million. Strong. Plus, the largest army in the region. I think you shouldn't mess with it too much, you know. Don't try to clash. He even said this for Israel. Today, the president of Ukraine also said that Turkey has the largest army in Europe. He did his job. Now, when we say these things, it was often said that these topics are discussed with rhetoric. No, my friend. I mean, you can't use rhetoric on two issues. You are against a very bad wall. One is the economy. There is no rhetoric in the economy. Two, in military matters. When you step onto the field, if the opponent is better than you, they will destroy you. Destroy you. That bravado is what made Russia retreat from the front of Kiev. That mistake just now, he said something interesting. He said you can't detect what some people do. That's where the trouble begins. With an army of 100,000, 110,000 people, I said he tried to seize Ukraine, if you remember. It was the day before that night. You know, he reminded me. I always remember, we were on Ahmet Hakan's program at that time. He asked me. I said, well, the structure of the army is always there. They are positioned like this. A day before February 24th, right? A day before. Will they enter? He says, because the British had published the report. They will enter on this date and so on, 2022. I said, well, after all, I'm not a general, but from the beginning, what we learned, structures, numbers, I always say, leave the armed forces. The armies in the world are actually built on mathematics. There is a mathematics to this. Yes, courage and all, but there is also mathematics, reality. With 100,000 people, I mean, against an army of 300,000 people, a group dynamics cannot invade a country. You can't, I mean. I said there's a mathematical error in this. I said, he had already annexed these regions at that time. I mean, he had already taken the Donetsk and Luhansk regions 2 days ago. He had already taken the Crimea region before. If you've taken it, why would you enter, brother? Are you crazy? And why would you enter with an army of 100,000? I mean, and also, in the previous history, I mean in the history of the Second World War, over there, where they call it the Kursk region. In this area where the Kursk region is located, the German army and the Russian army clashed with a full 2 million people. 2 million. 2 million. They couldn't stop them with 1 million. The Germans had their strongest units here. They couldn't stop it. Could not stop the Russians. And already lost this war, and all the way to Berlin, deep into Europe. They came. The war started here and ended here. The Russians knew this war best. Do you ask me? Not militarily, though. The phrase not militarily holds true to a certain extent. Why? When it is said a leader will emerge, it happens. But what happened? He said it would happen, but the history of war is mathematics. It takes you back again. What happened to the Russian army? It returned to the same point from here. With what kind of loss? In this war, exactly 80% of its army was lost. Do you know how great a defeat that is? It lost 80% of its army. So now look, we've come to the same point. Didn't he say the same thing about Trump? I don't know what he'll do about Trump either. Do you know what the worst thing in the world is? The worst thing in the world is not knowing what the opposing group will do. Because you look, you say that the gathering here is not a sign of war. It can't be, you say. But the man says, my friend, go in. He says, do it. He says, destroy it. Like he says now, I'm going to take Gaza. I mean, my friend, how are you taking Gaza? He says, I'm going to take Denmark. You say, my friend, how are you going to take it? I mean, it's not possible as a thing. Are you going to declare war on the land of a NATO country? What are you going to do? At the same time, isn't Denmark a European Union country? So would you be declaring war on Europe then? I mean, when you look at it mathematically, you're saying it's impossible, right? But can you say that when it comes to Trump? Look, this is also a democratic country. It has a Senate. It has its deep America, but can you still say it? You can't. I'm at the same point today. We've been talking for a while. Look, there are so many NATO countries, right? Already. Who is there outside the European continent that is a NATO country? Canada and the United States of America? I mean, England. Since we counted it before, I'm including it here as well. In other words, I'm including it in the continent of Europe. It consists of countries mostly located in the continent of Europe. Let me tell you, the total army of the European continent, the land army, is not as large as Turkey's, excluding Poland, because Poland is currently on a campaign. Yes, if it weren't, it wouldn't be as large as Turkey's. So what will happen then? It would be good for them to try to strengthen as soon as possible. Look where we're heading. When we started with the Trump era, we said while talking about the election that no matter what happens, a conjunctural opportunity has arisen for Turkey. That is, with Trump withdrawing into himself. We had mentioned that Turkey's importance increased due to other wars and other issues. Look, Turkey's importance has increased. But Turkey did not only increase its importance in a conjunctural sense. Turkey, its own values, that is. In such a transition period, you need a few factors. That will make you very valuable. One of these is, during wartime, what is it? It's the army, isn't it? The second is national power elements. That is your population, your spheres of influence, your intelligence, the strength of your defense industry, and also energy, having access to transportation and energy routes. Aren't all these values I've been talking about the ones that have increased recently in Turkey? We are here. Then you also raise the value of being an ally. Otherwise, if the conjuncture had come, it would have skipped us. We, along with the conjuncture, raised those values, and at the same time, they declared you the desired man. Now, what does Europe say? The United States says it's a problem, but I say, even if I increase it by 2%, forget 2%, even if I make it 10%, I say. But I say, I can't find anyone to put in the tank. The Greek administration, the Greek Cypriot administration, you know, they have military service at 18. Due to the fact that the current 18-month military service was insufficient because most people have deserted. Do you know what they did? They offered women the opportunity to volunteer. They granted the right to enlist. It's present in Russia and in Ukraine too. No, the Greek Cypriot side. Yes, but they already have it. It wasn't in the Greek Cypriot side. It's new. I'm not criticizing this. I'm not saying why are they enlisting women. It's new. Just recently, a new draft was passed a few weeks ago. Germany to work in the German army. Decided that you don't need to be German. Of course, can such a thing happen? The United States, before becoming an American citizen, join. Later, you can become an American citizen. He issued the right. Russia, before the war. If you stay on the field, those coming from another country, if you survive for 2 years, citizenship. He said, I will grant you the right to become a citizen with your family. Look, we are talking about absolutely great countries. They are asking questions in Europe, if any war breaks out, would you fight for Europe? I mean, would you fight for your own country? What's the rate? Guess. Is it 10%? Sir, is it 10%? In some countries, because it's higher, it pulls the average up. In some countries, it's around 20%. He says he won't fight in life. He doesn't say it for Europe. He says he wouldn't even fight for his own country. So where is he going then? The European Union, even before Trump came, started inviting Turkey to all security meetings as an exceptional country. Am I right or am I wrong? They exceptionally invited Hakan Fidan to the meeting in Brussels. They started doing something at NATO meetings that they hadn't done before. They wouldn't invite our defense industry companies, yes, to NATO meetings. All our companies, including the head of the defense industry, have started calling for meetings, especially our large companies. Reason? Reason? The essence of the reason is this. It's the time for realpolitik now. Right now is the time for realpolitik, not with those who just talk. Do I have an army? Yes, brother. Do I have strong evidence? Yes, brother. Do I have a defense industry? Yes, brother. Do I have a trained army? Yes, brother. Then you are engaging in realpolitik. And when it's realpolitik, you become the number one at that table, or the number one person to sit at the head of the table. Exactly. These days, at the meeting in Munich, in Paris, why didn't they invite Greece to the meeting? I'm just asking. Look, one of the largest armies is the Greek army. I mean, when we look at it, they have an army of over 140,000, which increases tension for us. Of course, Greece would have loved to be there, but they weren't invited. Something else. They went to the president of France. They went to veto the use of the Meteor missile, which will be used in Eurofighters. Even though Macron doesn't like us, he said no. He said no. What do you think? Why? We call it realpolitik.